Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys somewhat enjoyed your spring break. This week we're going to talk about resistance training. At times, people think of resistance training as weight training or lifting a dumbbell or a barbell, but resistance training, as you guys may have done lately, is just simply is doing something is involving your body weight, right? This text was, designed for it's the NASM text, which is the National Academy of Sports Medicine, was designed for people looking to get certified in personal training. I think one of you or two of you guys may be trainers already in this class. If not, NASM can be a good tool for you guys to use as to get certified in. The purpose of it is to kind of get you guys to understand resistance training. And again, it's not just about lifting weights. One thing I do want to mention is a big myth out there is weight training stunts growth, and that's a big myth. It's 2020 now. I hope people understand that's not true. Um, but and then another myth is lifting weights makes you bulky, which is true if you train that way. So if you train your body to get big and build a lot of muscle, you can do that. So different types of resistance training have different outcomes. So you can train your muscles to be more stable. You can train them to have endurance. You can train them to have size, strength, and power. So I guess the one of the important things we can do with this is just you're able to hopefully write yourself some kind of workout or program through this based on your training. Adaptation is what happens when you train, whether you're training to for performance, such as strength, speed, power. You're training just to be a little bit healthier, or you train to look good. I think um, people give it a bad rap because training for cosmetics or looking good is vain. But I think part of why we train is to look good and feel good. So a lot of things can happen when you're training. You can increase bone density, and you can start that at a young age, and it's very helpful for someone who's a little bit older as well. You can also decrease body fat. And then I think for most of us in this class, it's probably to do some type of increase in lean body mass. So our body works in a couple of ways, and general adaptation syndrome, or GAS, pretty much just says that anytime we introduce something new to the body, our body will stress out about it. But we do that over and over, we'll develop resistance to it. So we'll adapt and get better, and then but on the other side of that is if we do something for too long, whether that's the same exercise, same routine, uh, your body can become stagnant or it can overtrain and just be exhausted from that. So, again, you don't want to train too much of the same thing all the time just because it doesn't do anything after a while. And it also can create some overuse injuries or overloaded patterns, especially for a lot of us guys. We like to bench press a lot typically and not do enough pulling or rowing. One of the main principles of resistance training or just physiology is the SAID principle, which is specific adaptations to impose demands, which just means that your body is going to adapt to the demands placed on it. Again, so if you wanted to get big, you would lift weights to get big, and your body would get big. So it's one of those things almost where, hey, we're in Southern California and in the desert and it's 60 degrees, we're freezing. Well, yeah, our bodies are adapted to the heat. So a little bit more cold doesn't make us weak or not tough or soft. It's just that our bodies are acclimated to heat. So that's the body saying we're adapting to the demand that you're placing on it. This one gets tricky because you want to do things that are similar to your sport and life. So, but you also don't want to mimic too much. But you do want to do some exercises that are gonna mimic or closely resemble the pattern that you do in your sport or activity. So again, like if you're playing sport, usually there's a single leg component where you need like to be able to produce force with one leg or balance on one leg. So doing some single leg stuff is highly applicable to sport and life. And again, more on doing specific things, right? If you want lower body endurance, you're going to do lightweight over and over to do a lot of reps. And then if you want strength or max strength, you're going to do less reps with heavy weight. And if you want to work at a certain speed or whatever, you want something maybe lighter or moderate, and to be able to move that weight with some speed. So now we're talking about metabolic specific stuff. You want to think about, again, if I want like long endurance, I would have to train that. So if I want to be like a 5K runner or a marathon runner, I'm going to train that way. And then if I want to be more of like a sprinter or a power lifter or weightlifter, you want to think about training things with speed, intent, and you want to have a lot of rest to recover the energy system to be able to produce more force efficiently. Again, this is just the general adaptation syndrome. These are some things that you kind of want to remember. There's three phases to it: the alarm phase we talked about, the resistance phase, and the exhaustion phase. So just a little more summary of what we talked about earlier in the alarm stage. This is when your body is adapting or starting to adapt to the demand that you placed on it. And then again, what's the resistance stage? And that's, again, you have to do something for a longer period of time. And I don't know what that is. Everyone's going to adapt differently. But the more you do something, strength training or resistance training is just much as an adaptation, physiological adaptation, as it is a skill. So the more you do a skill, whether you're learning Spanish or throwing a ball, the more efficient you're going to get. So you want to do something long enough where your body creates some kind of efficiency to doing that. So the tricky part is, right, you want to do enough to create some resistance and some adaptation, but you also don't want to do too much where you're doing exhaustion, right? See, things can lead to muscle pains and strains, joint issues. You can, if you're running a lot and your body's not ready for it, or you've done too much, you can have like stress fractures, right? And then also when you're doing something, you got the emotional or psychological component, right, where it just gets boring and mundane. So strength is the your ability to overcome external force. And again, thinking about external, right? We usually think weights, but external, right, is any force, right? And typically, or I guess most of us should have the external force of gravity acting upon us. And for some of us, that could be more gravity or less gravity, depending on our body weight. Some strength adaptations that occur due to resistance training, stabilization, right? You're able to stabilize your body or balance. There's endurance, right? We can do a given weight, a lot of reps. And then there's muscular hypertrophy, meaning the growth of the muscle fibers. So thinking about building that a lot of muscle. And then strength again, right? Being overcome external load. And then you have power, which is the ability to overcome external load at a faster rate. And generally, you want to kind of progress this way: stabilization before strength, and then strength before power. With stabilization, right, we just think about, oh man, we need to sit on a ball or whatever. But for a beginner, right, pushing a bar versus pushing a machine for like a bench press can be stabilization, right? They have to kind of balance the weight, so that it can be potentially enough stabilization for you. Yeah, the stabilization phase, it just kind of gets the body to organize itself and figure out what muscles need to fire with the right amount of force and in the correct plane of motion at the right time. So again, it just you can do it this way. Again, this might be a lot of stabilization, laying on a stability ball and doing a bench press. For some people, they can just do a bench and do the same thing with dumbbells. Just balancing the dumbbells itself can get pretty tough for many folks. Muscular endurance again is just doing typically a lighter weight for a long period of time. So thinking about a lot of reps. Muscular endurance for a lot of people can be simply a lot of body weight squats, a lot of push-ups, especially in the case now, right? So we can build some muscular endurance just doing a lot of body weight stuff during this period, right? You could also think about, remember the isometric contractions, right, where we're just doing a hold. So I can even do a squat hold. So that's also going to work on isometric strength along with muscular endurance. So if I'm holding a squat or a push-up, that's also endurance and isometric strength. All right, so this is the good stuff, right? This is where a lot of people want to work out for. They want hypertrophy, so which is the enlargement of muscle fibers. Um, Again, you want to do this, maybe after you've built some stabilization or some strength. And this is, moderate weight and moderate volume, meaning, the weight is not too heavy, but it's heavy enough where I can do, 8 to maybe 15 reps, depending on my level. And yeah, so it's going to be not too heavy, but not too light. And this is where we build muscle during this phase, right? With strength, you want to think about pretty heavy weight in terms of strength. We usually measure strength with a 1 rep max or 1 RM, and typically that's done with the compound exercises that a lot of us may be familiar with, like the bench press, squat, deadlift, things of that nature. So think about that. And think about again, it's going to be a lot of weight, lower reps, anywhere between 1 and 5 reps. And with strength training, right, we also don't want to max out every single time we lift. We want to give some time for our bodies to adapt. And it may not seem like it, but doing a 1 rep max can be very fatiguing on the neuromuscular system. So, power is the ability to produce the greatest amount of force in the shortest amount of time. So, think about like a med ball throw or a toss. Think about a vertical jump or a broad jump, or for some of us can be Olympic lifting, right? Like power clean, hang clean, or snatch, jerk. Those things. So think about things that move fairly quickly, and it can be with a lot of weight or with little weight at a very high velocity. So there are a lot. So the training system just kind of shows there's a lot of ways to train. We have single set, we multiple sets, and I think supersets. I think a lot of us, I think in class we've done some superset stuff, and then we also have done some peripheral hard action. So we'll get into some of these systems shortly. Single set is great for beginners. This for a beginner, like maybe a few of you guys are pretty more advanced. You guys can do 2, 3, 5 sets. Where someone working out with you for the first time, they either need to do a combination of way less weight than you, way less reps, or just doing the same amount of repetitions uh, with less weight, but just 1 set. So instead of doing 3 by 15, they might just do one set of 15 to, and that's enough for them, right? They might be pretty sore from that. Again, that's usually for beginners, whereas some of us who are more advanced, that single set may work for a little bit just to maintain what you got, but a single set probably won't be enough to create an adaptation for novice and higher level athletes. right? Multiple sets for the advanced client. Again, we need to do, or for you as athletes or people who train. So it's pyramid system, right? You work light to heavy, and then you work down from heavy to light. So we'll do a set, from the bottom up, looking at the pyramid. So we'd probably do a set over here, a set here, a set here, a set here, a set here, and then work our way back down. This is very popular, for building muscle. You're not going to do a lot of strength here because after, right, if we're working these higher rep ranges, you're only going to be able to move that weight, or you can only do so much weight at those given repetitions. And then you're also fatigued. So let's say you normally bench, 50 pounds here. But if you've done all this prior, that 50 pounds might feel too heavy and you might need to do less weight. So you're going to be doing less weight. But again, a ton of reps with all those sets it's going to help accumulate volume for hypertrophy. So for muscle building, this works really well. All right, supersets typically done with two or three. Some people do more. So meaning that, for example, I will do a squat. Three. I'll do a set of squats at whatever 5 reps if I'm doing some strength, and then while I'm resting my legs, I'm going to do a superset. So I will do a set of rows for my upper body, so for my back, right? And that would be one set. So I'd repeat that. My second set, I would do again another set of squat and another set of rows. Drop sets are another popular way to get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. Again, that's just primarily for building muscles. Some of us may have seen in the gym before where a guy's benching and he has like 2 or 3 spotters. They have a bunch of 5 stacks on the side of the barbells. They'll do a set of 8 reps or so, take the 5s off, and do a bit more. You can do it that way. There's a ton of ways to do drop sets. So you might want to do it that way. We're doing the same amount of reps to failure. Take some weight off, do more reps to failure. More reps, do a set to failure. So circuit training can do a lot, right? You could train. I wouldn't overthink it. You probably won't develop too much strength or size from it, but it's a good way to train for muscular endurance and cardiovascular endurance. So this is very popular amongst your just regular fitness people because you can do kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. Instead of having to go on a run, go lift weights, you're going to do both because you're not going to rest. So for this example, you may do push-ups for 30 seconds, rest for 20 seconds, do sit-ups for 30, rest, short rest, and then repeat that again. Or you can just do a lighter weight or just lighter weight combined with body weight, do another exercise, so like bench, squat, row, sit up, squat jumps, like combining a bunch of things at once. So that not only stresses the muscular system, but it also stresses the cardiovascular system. So you are going to do a little bit of both. I think there's a lot of value in this, right? Especially if we're typically on a time crunch. You're not really going to build too much here, but again, it can be a quick and effective way to work out, to train both the muscular and the cardiovascular system. Yeah, so this chart here just kind of shows the like a graph version of what we just talked about. Again, you guys can do this with different types of modalities, or you can do this with your body weight. The main takeaway here is just like minimal rest. So this example here has 6 exercises prior to rest. The reps aren't listed here, but again, you can kind of get creative here. Maybe like a body weight exercise, you can do more reps, and then the heavier with stuff with weight, you can do a little bit less reps, or you can just do everything for time to keep it really simple. So it's just set a timer for X amount of time, rest, maybe a couple of seconds in between exercises, and then get a full rest after each round is completed. So the peripheral heart action system, or PHA, is, I think we've done it this way in class, is, you'll do an upper body exercise and a lower body exercise. So, and that same example earlier, right? I do a squat followed by a upper body exercise like a row or bench press. Doing this, you allow, like for example, the lower body to rest while you're working the upper body, and then vice versa. So doing this, you're resting the muscular system, but since you're moving, you're also going to be training the cardiovascular system as well. So this can be good, if you don't want to do, too much circuit, but you also want to get a good workout, stressing both systems. This is a good way to train as well. So another table here of how the book has how you train PHA. So there's, depending on your goal, whether you're working on stabilization, strength, or power, there's different ways to do these things. Again, you're pretty much alternating between exercises that are different, whether that's a power to strength, upper, lower, lower, upper, core, upper. Uh, you're able to stress the cardiovascular system this way and also put some demand on the muscular system. So you're training, again, two things at one time. So vertical loading is just when you complete each exercise body part before moving on to the next set. So you'll do a set of chest, a set of back, your set of shoulders, set of biceps, set of triceps, and then that's one set, and then you move on to the next. So again, you would just do one set of each body part and then move on to the next. Whereas horizontal loading is you'll do all your chest and then do all your back, and do all your shoulders, all your biceps. So a little bit different. Again, vertical loading, think about either bottom up or top down, and then horizontal just going across. So again, you do all one body part and then switch to the next. Right, split routines are just kind of what you typically see when we work out. Is we have arm day, we have back day, chest day, hashtag leg day, that type of thing, right? Within this, right, you can do it differently, right? Depending how you do it, whether you're doing a 2 day split, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day. This table here also just kind of shows how to do that, right? So again, just picking a thing that works for you. You can do split, you don't have to do it 6 days a week. There's also ways to do it 3 or 2 days a week. So just finding based on your schedule and your body what works for you. So just, again, think about the myths that we talked about. It doesn't stunt your growth. Lifting weights doesn't just make you bulky. Lifting weights does what we talked about, right? It can, if that's what you're training for, and it can get you stronger. It can help build muscular endurance. I think, for some of you guys, this might be an opportunity to play with a different type of training system, and or just different modalities right now based on what's happening. Now, this might have been a lot of information. I'm also attaching the slides by itself, so the PowerPoint by itself, in addition to this lecture. Feel free to use that discussion board, to answer what I've asked of you guys, and also just ask questions for each other or for myself. I know there's a lot of information here, and there's a lot going on, and some of you guys may have more specific questions in terms of what you guys are doing on your current routine. So that's it for this one. I hope you guys aren't doing too bad with this, and doing whatever you guys can to stay active and in control of the things that you guys can control.